Coming to you live from the One More and I'm Out of Here / Illegal Shift Studios, trying to start the show, and of course Andrew doesn't know how to fucking behave.
I'm confused. This
is not the first time.
Two different time clocks here. I'm trapped in the time.
Well, you should bring a computer, and you would actually be able to do it in real time.
If you didn't have this ex-Soviet block Wi-Fi system,
I'm hardwired, motherfucker.
Yeah, and who told you to do that?
Because you.
Who told you to do that?
Because you.
Who told you to do that?
Because you.
Who told you to do that?
You complaining is telling you to do that. You complaining,
and it works so much better.
And it does.
Put a little Cialis on it, and boom.
Why didn't Harriet and Spira just not hug you enough? For fuck's sakes!
I am the middle child. Does that explain anything to you?
Oh, it makes
I'm the invisible child.
We are joined today with Andrew and myself. We got my brother Mark Karwisch, who has been a guest on the podcast before. It's been a long time, and glad you're here.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Hey, welcome.
So we're going to hit
2 against 1.
Well, you speak for all of us, right? Remember?
Isn't
that what that says?
For us all.
Isn't that what that says?
I mean, it was one of the iterations. I had lots of iterations.
If you're dumb, if you're dumb, that's who speaks to.
If you're mute.
No, Saturday early afternoon edition, late afternoon edition. I don't know if you're old, so you're in bed by 9. Is this late afternoon or early afternoon?
This is mid-afternoon. Let's just go with that.
Okay. All right, that's fair.
And I'm missing lots of football games for this, but this is more important because
I can turn them on up there if you.
No, I like to look at see kind of what I was doing a couple seconds ago, so that I could not do it in a couple seconds from now.
Andrew just likes to see himself.
That's not true.
And he likes to hear himself too.
I do like to hear myself.
So we have not been together since the debate. So this is labeled the debate recap, but we've got a ton of stuff with it.
Yeah.
But Andrew, we went Instagram live from an undisclosed location because I'm not allowed to say where we posted that.
That's fine.
But your thoughts for anybody that didn't see our Instagram reel. Your thoughts out of the gate.
Well, out of the gate, and first of all, I thought it was great getting together with a bunch of folks and just to see what a public reaction is, because you have your own reaction, or you and your spouse or your significant other sitting in your house watching it. But when you're with other people, you'd like to see what the reactions was, and it affirms your beliefs. And I thought just right out the get-go, I was like, well, we knew it was going to be biased, and we knew they were going to do everything they could to help Kamala out. I was shocked because I thought the last go around, I thought CNN did, and I don't know if we'll have to edit this out later, but
no, we don't edit anything.
I thought CNN actually did a really good job the first debate. The questions were fairly balanced, and the moderators, you couldn't really, at least I couldn't judge who the moderator wanted to win or quote unquote win the debate. This time, right out of the gate, I was like, oh, really? I was like, this is what you're going to ask, and then this is how you're going to follow it up, and this is your comment. And then most specifically, egregiously, the fact-checking was just horribly egregious. And I do have as we've discussed multiple times, I don't know if he watches this show, but I do have a media expert who on his feed, I went on and I saw, he was like, oh, it was so fair and so unbiased. And I was like, this is part of the problem with the media these days, is they just don't see it. I think overall it was sad because I was upset that Trump, and we commented on this at the time, but maybe folks didn't see it. I thought Trump did let her get to him, and he got angry. Now he's explained that, and I kind of follow the logic. He's pissed. And I don't blame him, and I'm pissed, and we're all pissed at what's happening in our country, because especially here in Ohio, where we're at, but I have family in Texas, and they've been experiencing this for, years now because of the open border that we have. Here in Ohio, we thought we were maybe removed because we weren't a border state, and I think what folks are waking up and I think what folks are getting really pissed off about is that every state is now a border state when you have no borders.
Yes. And that's the weird thing. Ohio, Midwest, but here we are. We're dealing with it. Mark, what were your thoughts?
I was disappointed how many things that President Trump left on the table. Obviously, the best policies of any president. You know, that's my guy. But, you know, at the end of the day, he repeated himself a lot. And if I was his son, I would have tried to correct that years ago. But he left a lot on the table. We had a lot of opportunity to hit her so many different times. And I think initially when you would say, what have the last 4 years been, you know, are you better off than you were before? And Ronald Reagan, I think the first thing I would have done if I was President Trump when she gave her biography, which was a joke, I would have just attacked right off the bat and said, well, you asked her a question, you're not following up. So that's the kind of night we're going to have. I would have been lighthearted. I would have made a point, you know, that, what's her name? Lindsay Davis, the sorority sister there that was on the ABC moderator.
I don't think they knew that till afterwards. But
well, he made a joke about sororities. You know, he did. I think I would have made a
Still
point.
Convenient.
I would have made it a laughing joke, but I would have said, you know, as you know, Senator Cruz said, you know, basically would have made a point about where we're at. I have a defamation suit against ABC's, but I'm here anyway, ABC News. And what the other woman that I was looking at, her name was Dana Walden, I guess, was the executive from Disney. Her and her husband, she runs she's vice president of the news division. But basically her husband, Matt, I guess, the two of them are best friends with Doug, the vice president's husband. And since the 80s and then in the 90s, I guess, Dana and her are best of buddies, and, you know, attorney general, senator, you name it, vice president, that she's, you know, donated to all of her political campaigns. But I think he needed to make a point about that. But initially off the bat, I think the first 5 minutes is important because everybody kind of goes to bed at 35 minutes in, unless you're like us. But I would have said the only person, you know, you know, you didn't ask her the question. She didn't follow up. And I'll tell you who is better off than they were 4 years ago. And that is the coyotes, the drug cartels, the human smugglers who have taken advantage of women and children at that border. And I would have just went right at it, right out of the gate. That's how I would have done it.
I agree with you. He left a lot on the table. And I think that, like I said, we commented that night, but I was upset that it wasn't his best night. And especially after the first debate and having maybe overinflated expectations of how he would perform. Yeah. I think he got mad, and I could tell he got mad because his voice, you know, obviously went up.
Yeah, his inflections were different.
His inflections were different. He got pissed off, but like we discussed, also, it made no difference. I mean, the debate would have mattered more if there was a swing in polling, and there really hasn't been. And I think part of the reason for that, as we discussed, is that folks can, you know, they have access to other channels of information. They have the internet, interweb, and they have they have social media, and they can share stories. They can share accurate stories, although there'll be there's a lot of things I'm seeing that sometimes are labeled misinformation that are not misinformation, and people are able to bypass the biases of the interviewers and the channels. But I was asked by a very in-depth local interviewer the other day, hi Dan, that
well, the betting lines didn't change either, so that makes
no, they're not going to change. They didn't change, but
yes.
He said something along the lines of, you know, why didn't it change? You know, why do you think that is? And I'm like, because people know it's going to be biased, so they get their information elsewhere. They might have put on the video from the debate just to watch the video, watch the inflections. But at the end of the day, they might have the audio going from the internet or a lot of podcasts. We're doing live fact checking on the conservative side, and it negates the influence. I mean, could you imagine if this was, you know, pick an older time, you know, 1980? Let's just say it was 1980. So you had three major networks. You didn't have the internet. You didn't have you had AM radio, which is still alive and well, at least for now. But you didn't have these other sources that were easy to get to
at your fingertips.
Fingertips right now. I mean, let's be fair. Everybody has this device. I don't care who you are in America today. Right. Even the migrants from other countries are getting these at our expense.
Here, have it. Have it.
But I mean,
it's like an Oprah show. You get a cell phone. You get a cell phone.
You know, and it does so much more. I don't know if you realize this, Jason, but this actually does more than make calls.
It's weird.
It's weird like that.
It's the strangest thing.
It is the strangest thing. This device is actually more powerful. by a factor of several than the computers that were used in the lunar module that landed on the moon.
Yeah, well,
Very
NASA,
much more.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, my point in saying that is not to show you have a very smart device in your
A
hand.
full room of computers.
Right. This amount of computing power in the 80s would have
incredible.
been, I mean, I was studying in the 80s, I was studying COBOL on Trash 80s. If that brings back any memory to anybody, writing reams and reams of data just so that the program could do something very, very rudimentary. So my point is that yes, although you may not be a wonk, policy wonk, or a political wonk, you do have access, and there's so many people on different social media platforms that are able to fact check this stuff in real time. And we're going to mention some of the fact checks that went on there today's show. But yeah, I was hopeful that he would have a more lighthearted attitude. I was hopeful she would cackle more. I do find her, and this has been reported or at least reflected in the polling, her cavalier attitude to the suffering Americans I found pretty callous.
Yeah, it was gross.
I wasn't
It was fucking
looking
gross.
for it. I wasn't looking for it. I mean, I'm happy it happened in a way, but I'm also pissed that it happened because look, folks are suffering. Folks are out here hurting. We see it every day. You guys, you see it more than I do, but I just cannot get over how a political party just doesn't really care that people are actually hurting. And they're like, well, what are you talking about? Well, for example, and we'll talk about it today. Obviously, Ohio made the debate stage, which is amazing. Way to go, Ohio. I was like, oh God, they're mentioning Ohio.
Son of a bitch.
And then Jason and I talked about it, and Jason was correct. I thought Springfield was like, up by Akron. And it's not. It's right by Dayton.
Yeah, suburb of
Wittenberg
Dayton.
University. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, there's a couple of them, but I didn't know it was that one. And those folks up there, and it wouldn't have been mentioned. So now Springfield, Ohio is getting boatloads of DPS troopers, public safety troopers, state troopers are there helping do what? Enforce traffic laws, because apparently Haitians don't drive well.
Well, apparently they can take the permit test with an interpreter, and in their language, permit means permission, so they don't go back and take the actual driving test.
Well, here, so I'm gonna recommend, and we're gonna take care of this in the next week.
We should take a field trip.
Well, no. Do a live report.
Yes.
From Springfield. Can we bring a cat?
Yeah.
Where's my cat noises? Can we do a I think what we should do is like take a dummy cat and leave it out in the field and just see what happens. That doesn't sound real.
So let me ask you this. Now you talk about that one city, but that the CHNV program that they have, which I believe is it's a government program that has Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. And that CHNV program that comes in from the Biden-Harris administration basically has let in 520,000 folks in so far, with a green light up to 3.6 million. So they are flown in by way of commercial flights into the interior of the United States of America. Destination of their choice. They are here to stay forever. And
for the most part, yeah.
And Department of Homeland Security, DHS, has now said that they don't have any kind of mechanism for tracking these individuals once they're released in the United States.
Well, how would they?
Not at all. Just like the children.
Well, remember what they said when they were caught or when they were exposed, giving cell phones to the people walking illegally. Now the difference here. Let's be very clear. These are not. The migrants that we're talking about in Springfield, Ohio, are not here illegally. Correct. They are under this protective
temporary
protective migrant status or whatever it's called.
Temporary protective status.
Flown in the cover of night, right?
Flown in the middle of the night. A lot of times, there've been many reports that they denied for many months till they were shown, till somebody with one of these filmed them at an airport,
exactly,
and exposed them and said, "Well, who? If this isn't happening, who the hell are these people?" Meanwhile, you and I are subject to taking off our shoes, our belts, our whatever, and having somebody cup us, which Jason enjoys. I've heard that he flies often. He's like, yeah, go ahead.
I'm like, I'm smuggling something. You just got to figure out what it is.
What is your safe word? I'm not sure, but
Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
So
I got to make sure I get all the syllables.
that's a lot. That's a long safe word.
Duh.
Duh.
If you're doing it right. Come on, Andrew.
Troubling. But the point is that you're these folks are here. They're not being tracked. Although we did give the ones here illegally cell phones, and the logic given by the very State Department that we trust and this administration was, we want to be able to track them.
Right.
Well, I'm confused here. Why on one department says we can't track them, the other one says we're giving them these freebies because we want to track them. Something's not lining up, and I have a big problem, as you should. As Cincinnati should, because it's happening here in Cincinnati. Need I mention Wyoming, which is a suburb of Cincinnati proper? It is its own city, but Wyoming has a problem with Mauritanians, in not necessarily invading, but they're all around the village or the city of Wyoming, and they're, I don't want to use the word infiltrating, but they're overtaking their public spaces because they don't have jobs. They don't really have anything to do. So they're not sitting. They don't want to be sitting in an apartment all day. So they're just clogging up the public spaces. And I find it hilarious because some of the folks in Wyoming are complaining that the ones that are complaining about it are the very ones that support this administration wholeheartedly. So now I guess they're upset that the very administration that they support is somehow affecting the quality and the way of their life. It's okay. My point in mentioning that is it's okay and it's cool if, they screw up Texas or, they screw up Springfield, Ohio. But by God, don't spring up Wyoming because I'm having my latte on the sidewalk and I don't want to see this crap.
Right.
But I mean, shouldn't they be the first ones to suffer since they are the ones that voted in this stuff and donated their money to this administration?
Well, and your phrase before we went live was you reap what you sow.
You reap what you sow.
And educate yourself before you go out and vote.
Well, it just shows
and realize what you're actually voting for.
And doesn't it bring home the point, and we've said it a million times, you know what? Elections have consequences. How many times have we heard that?
That moniker, I mean, right here just rings so true. Hold
on, got a message from my mom.
Uh-oh.
What is it, Mom?
How do you get on? How do I log on?
Is that just saying hi. Hi, Mom. How you doing, Mom?
Hi, Harriet. Hi, Harriet.
Wave. Hi, Mom. Everyone say hi, Harriet.
We love Harriet.
Yep, we do.
I've never met her, but I love her.
I had the pleasure either.
She made this.
Well, let me ask you this about as far as you just made me think about something talking about your mom. But I know my grandfather came from Germany before the war in the early 30s, and my question is, when you had to come through Ellis Island and he came here, obviously had to have a full physical. He had to, speak partial English and he had to have a trade.
Yeah.
So what makes you feel, Jason and I talked at length about it 4 years ago. And, when you mention anything about it, we're all agree that we're all for immigration.
Absolutely.
We wouldn't be here without it.
Absolutely.
And I want to know why, when Clinton and Biden and Obama and Bush, everybody voted for certain laws that were put in place, Democrat, Republican. And then when you talk about it, when we have $6 trillion being spent, but we're only bringing in $4 trillion. And it is, you kind of worry about it from the standpoint of how am I saying that you're just putting a picture when you question this. It's a no-win situation where people attack that it's a racial situation or
it's nothing to do with race.
And I think clarifying that for everybody here, and I want to clarify it for the comments I want to make about it, but it's like, if we can't afford to take care, you took an oath of office when you became, and you're I was excited to be here and appreciate the offer because you're really well for many decades, know a lot of people. I've gotten to meet a few in my time, but nothing on your level. But the question of it, what I'm saying with politics in general is that I just don't understand, why, really in the debate, he had an opportunity, instead of talking about what he did, is to really, I would have hunkered down right on Springfield and talked about 55,000 people. And if it's 15 or 24,000 that were brought into that suburb, into that area, the grocery stores can't even meet the demand of what they, just something simple of what they want.
He should have. And that was a lost opportunity.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to bang on him because I don't think it made a difference at the end of the day. I think the liberals are dug in, the conservatives are dug in. You might have 5 or 6%. We're trying to,
the funny thing about that. So I'm glad you brought that up. So the funniest thing of all about that is they're like, Well, you know what they're fact checking about that whole subject right now?
Yeah.
Is whether or not they're eating pets.
Right.
That's the big hang
That's
up.
the sad thing
Right.
about the
That's
whole
Whether or
argument.
not they're eating pets. Now, I guess it depends what your definition of pet is, because I guess they're cool with the guy just going down to the pond and grabbing a couple of geese, whacking them on the head and dragging the geese home. That's cool. And let's be fair. Canadian geese, they kind of poop all over the place and they make a mess, and they're not the most friendly creatures, and if some of them get harvested, is that a big deal? I don't know. I couldn't do it. I couldn't go out there and sit there with I think if I sat there with my 12 gauge, I'd probably go to jail. I'm not sure.
Well, you can't discharge a firearm. And
Well, even if I
Typically.
grabbed them if I was, let's just assume I was fast enough to catch one just for a moment.
hold on,
Hypothetical.
man.
No,
It's over.
All right, let's say there was an injured goose. Let's just talk a little more realistic. And I was able to grab this thing, throw it in my car, and take it home. I mean, my point is this the country we want to live in? And
Right.
I mean, are these the norms and values that we have in the United States? I will say this with regard to was it your grandfather came over here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
My dad did. I'm a first generation American.
Yeah.
And yes, they tended to migrate to areas that there were others of the same culture.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like-minded.
But what they also did was they assimilated into the culture of the United States. Now we do have, communities such as Little Italy in different
Mhm.
metropolitan areas. We do have
Chinatown.
that is, there's nothing wrong with those communities.
No. That's
Those people have thrived and prospered by, not necessarily, they appreciated our values, and they used, they thrived under the system that we have here of capitalism.
Right.
And they worked their butts off.
Well, and Cincinnati was a German town, as we know.
Is there
So-
any geese outside?
Jill
Yeah.
said I might actually pay to see Pappas chasing a goose around and try to catch it.
So
I would too.
We can start the bidding. The thing is though they assimilated into the fabric that is the United States, the blanket of the United States of America. We are a country of immigrants, proudly so. However, I will say this: I don't think that your grandfather, I know my father,
Mhm.
did not get a government phone, did not get a government program, did not have the signs printed in Greek or German where he was coming through, had to learn a certain language,
right.
had to learn a rudimentary English, had to also pass a physical to make sure he wasn't carrying infectious disease. I have heard that in areas such as Springfield, and even in areas, if you look up Mauritania on the map, since Jason doesn't know where it is. Hey, Siri.
I knew it was Africa.
Yeah.
Just didn't know
Siri
where.
just went off. Sorry. I know that in those communities, there's outbreaks. The infectious disease rate of certain diseases is going through the roof.
Mhm.
TB, I heard, is one of them. I heard AIDS is another one. And that's not just because those are the diseases prevalent in their home country.
Right.
So what we used to do in this country was when you were suffering from a disease, guess what they did? They quarantined you
Right. That's correct.
till you were cleared. And then
Or
you were
sent
able
back home.
or sent back
Which-
home. Exactly right.
Yeah.
But nowadays we're like, hey, come on in. The pool's fine. Everything's great.
Isn't it amazing that way back then we had a system?
Well, they had common sense.
We had a system that worked,
right.
and it worked well.
Worked
And we
very well.
have all thrived through
The
that
country
system.
thrived. The country
Yes.
thrived. And it wasn't perfect, but it was a pretty good system.
Now we're circumventing
Well,
said system
we had
to
points
just bring people.
we had points of entry, and that way we could check the people and screen
Right,
for
right.
these diseases.
Fucking crazy idea.
And we don't have that anymore because this administration has a border czar who's now the vice president, was the vice president, also the presidential candidate. And she and her party believe that, they're part of this open borders crowd that thinks that, we should have a one world government of all the countries, share all the resources, and everybody's equal and no country's better than anybody else. So why have borders if there's, we're all part of the one world? I don't subscribe to that. But we've also conveniently ignored the fact that yes, there's a lot of problems with the drivers in Springfield, Ohio, because of, that's where I was going with that comment. Charlie Norman, who's in charge of public safety, the drivers department here in Ohio, wants to be on the program. So I've promised Charlie Norman that he can be on the program. He'd have to join us remote. His job is up in Columbus, but
absolutely,
I would
love that.
Charlie is a great guy, and he has been responding to some claims that people have made online that these folks are driving, they're getting driver's licenses. That's not accurate. They're not getting driver's licenses. They might be getting, correct, as Jason said, they might be getting permits, like permission to get a driver's license or to take the test, and they think then that's their driver's license. I don't know the specifics of that, but Charlie has assured me that there's not a program here in Ohio that are just giving these people licenses without taking tests. And somebody asked in one of the threads I was following, they were like, well, how do they buy cars? Have you ever been to a used car lot? There's not a whole lot other than moolah that's required to buy a car.
Right.
But that's the problems we're facing here. And we didn't even touch on, take the pets out of it. They're not killing pets. Okay?
Was there a child? There was a child that was struck by a school bus. He was ejected from the school bus, and then there also was a woman. I saw an elderly woman. Saw the daughter speak about her at the
council meeting.
And that's the question: is how many tens of millions of dollars are they getting to shut up and fall in line by the government?
Well, the state of Ohio is now having, as I said, we're already sending additional troopers to Springfield to do just simple traffic enforcement, and not that it's simple up there. And we're also sending an additional, I think the governor announced, was it $2.5 million?
$3 million, I think.
Yeah, I think
so
between 2.5 and 3, or yeah.
Okay, so there's $3 million that we can't spend on, I don't know, pick something else that we have problems with. I mean, we have American homeless. We have a homeless problem here. We have veterans are always in need of services. We have any number of there's far too many mouths that to feed in this country, that we need to bring in more mouths to feed. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be anti-immigrant, but I think we should be smart immigration. And we're not smart immigration. No borders is not the answer.
What I find amusing is if after, and we had shown the one video with the black gentleman at the council meeting saying, I've been going around Springfield broadcasting this on YouTube of the car accidents and whatever. And he's actually, I've seen some of his other videos after the fact, but he brought up the fact, why don't you bring the state troopers who are getting people for going, 10 miles over, which you're still breaking the law. And I get it. But it took that video to go viral for DeWine to now send state troopers to Springfield, Ohio, of all places. I don't know where the closest state trooper post is to that. I'm sure they probably have one in Dayton, I would assume.
But I know.
But it took that.
That's where I slowed down on 75. I can tell you that. I'm always like,
you ain't shitting. But it took that for this to happen. And to your point, spending more money in that community where, with all of this, the presidential debate that being brought out onto a national stage.
Yeah. What would so that begs the question, and that's a great point. So what would have happened? Because I heard this is happening in other cities. I know it's happening. We see the videos of other cities in the United States. It's also happening in other cities here in Ohio. Findlay's got a problem with it. I'm sure it's happening in other communities, and I'm sure they're like, "Hey, what the hell do we have to do for you to acknowledge our problems?" So we have a couple of videos we're going to show here. But if this wasn't broadcast on social media, and if it didn't start going viral and being covered by the alternative media we discussed, what would be happening in Springfield today? Guess what?
Yeah.
Zip. Nothing.
And
they just, if it's out of sight, out of mind.
But think about this. I heard somebody say the other day that HUD estimates it would take, this is a good old HUD, their estimate, $20 billion to end homelessness in the United States of America.
$20 billion.
And we're spending right now $150 billion a year. And that's low. Anything from the government on this topic is not even close, right? they say 7 million immigrants have come here. I say it's 30, but the Yale study says 21, 22, whatever you want to believe. The bottom line is, if you don't have the money, how do you do it? And that's the question. It comes down, and we all know, and we've been talking about it for 4 years, and we knew what happened from day one. And one thing I'd say that if I could get one question, and there'd be a bunch I'd like to have for Biden, and you know the reason.
Well, you're going to ask Biden a question?
Well, let me ask you this. If you heard, and again, this is something that I don't have fact check, but I'm pretty sure it's true, within the 17 hours of office when he ended all of those presidential executive orders of Trump.
That's within 5 seconds of being in office, yes.
What's passionate to me, having 5 children, my question is, why did he stop the DNA testing at the border? That right there, Democrat, Republican, throw it out the window. We know they're bringing these folks in for votes. We knew that's what it was from day one. With the African-American votes moving to Trump, especially African-American men. We know that union men from the Teamsters UAW, 60, 78 years old, that dynamic's drawn off. They've been scared for a long period of time. Hispanic Americans have been moving. As George Soros went out and tried to buy all of those Hispanic stations across the country in advance. I mean,
right.
That guy right there is public enemy number one, but he's smart in what he does.
Right.
So my question is, when you look at that, and nobody talked about it for 2.5 years. No, everybody was scared because you would automatically be demonized. There's no logical reason why you would not test. If we brought a child to the border, we're coming up, male, female, 2 males, they were tested. Trump had that in place. Biden removed it. He removed the DNA testing.
And what has happened? And you're
with
great.
Your child with you to prove it's your child.
That's right. And so there's been estimates now that Trump talked about this, brought this up in California.
Yeah.
No, 300,000 children are unaccounted for that have come into this country that we don't know where they've gone
HHS
to.
has a lower number. Yes, it's 300.
It's
right.
300,000 kids. Now, as we discussed, there's a movie that's out now that is discussing, and we talked about the movie, and I wish everyone would go out and see it. Just the name escapes me right now. What was the name of that movie?
You had the two. You had Sound of Freedom.
That was great.
Sound of Freedom was great.
And
then the second one was called.
I can't remember the title.
We'll look it up here, but and we're just going off the cuff. I didn't know we were going to talk about it. But look, this is real. These are you raise a fantastic point. I just was hopeful that yes, it would have come up in the debate. We're talking about 300,000 children, and we're in Ohio, which is the center, sadly.
This would be perfect for the people out there that are, if there are that small percentage that are still struggling. These are not, it's just common sense issues. Do you have the money? Don't you? Do you have the resources or don't you? Are you taking care of children? They're not humanitarians. These politicians are not, they're not down at the border stopping. That's why the rapes of children and women, and I'm sure at that border by these cartels has escalated exponentially. So think about the trek of what they do. Their whole life is ruined. Everything that they thought they're coming. How do they recover from that psychologically?
And you don't.
And Harris wants to sit there and act like she cares about people.
And she laughed. That's the part that got me during the interview, during the debate. Yes. She just laughs because, dude, these are people. You're exactly right. These are children.
Forever changed, ruined mentally.
Mentally, and it's just sad, and it's heartless. It's actually, let's call it what it is. It's evil.
Yes.
I don't care what you call it.
All
it's
for
evil.
Votes, right?
All for votes.
To stay in power.
Stay in power.
Forever.
For power's sake.
It's ruined. I think if they win this election, I don't think we're going to have a Republican Party.
If
they bring another 30, 60 million people.
I will tell you this. If they win this election and we have another
it's not hyperbole.
4 years of what we've had this past 4 years with the weaponization of the Justice Department.
Censorship.
I think we're in deep trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
That's just being kind. I don't want to be hyperbolous.
Yeah, hyperbolic.
But who's a threat to democracy?
Hyperbolic.
Is that
like hyperbolic? Is that like parabolic? Hyperbolic? Yeah, that's it. But I don't want to be extreme here and say it's the end of the United States. But how can you argue? If you and I were 3 years ago discussing what the state of the country was going to be in, I wouldn't have thought it was going to be where it's at right now. If I was to say to you, just because I'm of a different political affiliation and party, and that the full and unlimited weight of the federal government would be brought to bear against political candidates, I would have said, never happen.
Never happen.
Constitution says it can't happen. Congress won't let it happen. Guess what? It's happening.
Right.
And they're emboldened by this. Then you throw the whole COVID response into it, what they did to the citizenry, you know. I don't know, man. I think the United States definitely does change if these cats win the election and we have 4 more years of Kamala, who really doesn't have a whole lot of political expertise. She has expertise of a different nature. But I'm just going to say, ask Willie Brown. But I'll just say this, and let's be honest. You know, do we believe that Joe Biden's calling the shots now? No.
Oh,
Do
absolutely not.
No.
We don't even know where he is.
He never did.
Do we think Kamala's calling the shots or will be calling the shots?
Nope.
Because they didn't even nail her down. Now, like we talked about, the one question that I found the most egregious during that whole thing was that when they asked her about her flip-flops. And she says, I'm going to get to that. I'm going to answer each and every one of those. And then she talked about her childhood. I don't care about her childhood.
Right.
These are positions that she has had that she's then modified, and now she's just whatever she has to be. She's actually in the Trump's one line. You have to give him credit.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give her a MAGA hat because she has all my positions. That was actually pretty funny.
Yeah.
I wish he had more. I wish he had more of that. Use humor.
Yes, humor.
Rather than getting angry. People love.
Yes.
That's why people love Reagan, because
Exactly.
Reagan was humorous. Reagan was not adversarial. He was humorous. I mean, he did have his adversarial moments, but he was also made his point by using humor to appeal to a broader base.
It's a great communicator, right? I mean,
So I wish Trump would have taken.
Here's a perfect example, and we'll share this one.
Any day now. Queuing it up.
Because they should be condemned totally.
Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking.
Mexico has taken over a period of 30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it. We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. Wait a minute. I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar?
So a lot of that was with the moderators, which we were talking about earlier. But like her going back and forth, and I do have a video in here somewhere, with the fracking where she said in 19, I'm getting rid of it. And then all of a sudden, oh, I'm all for it. And I got to find that video because we have like 18 queued up.
But don't you find it funny when Bernie Sanders says 48 hours before the debate that she's being pragmatic, basically code to all of the progressives?
Don't listen to what she says.
She's just saying to get elected.
She's saying whatever she has to do to get in.
Not going to take your private health insurance, which she claims she would for years. She's not going to take your gun. How about the gun comment? That's the one that cracked me up. I'm not taking any guns. I mean, she's made her career art for 20 years of it. She's going to take every gun that there is. And you go on all the flip-flops of frocking, everything you mentioned. So just so many opportunities, but I think he left on the table. And the other thing it's tough is, he does repeat himself a lot.
Here, I'll go to this.
Which that time could have been used.
I wish it, it is what it is, and that's now water under the bridge. So I don't like to rehash it too much.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the polls didn't change, and we have to face the reality where we're at right now. The polls didn't change.
But a lot of people don't realize that do you believe the polls, for one?
Well,
who are they polling?
Yeah.
We never know exactly who they're polling. So if you look at one channel, it's she's up 5 points. You look at others and she's down 2. I don't trust the polls. I hope that people are educating themselves and going to do the right thing in November, in my opinion. But I don't trust the polls because you don't get concrete answers on this side or concrete answers on that side.
No, and he can do no wrong in my eyes. It's just a matter of, I'm just saying it's not wrong to have high expectations on that night because it could have been the final dagger. That's where I'm coming from. But
Absolutely.
We all support him. I mean,
Oh yeah, we support him, and it would have. But let me ask you a question, a serious question.
Yeah.
So let's say that you had his performance from the first debate on the second debate. Okay. and he went in there, knocked it out of the park, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Would it be over? I mean, seriously, would it really be over? Because I got to be honest with you.
No, it's never over with them. But
Well,
yeah.
that's exactly my point. It's not over with them. So my point is that they would have been like, Donald, she won the debate, which they would have said anyway. She won the debate. What I've seen from the results I've seen is that, yes, and the percentage wise, more people think she performed better. And if you want to call won the debate, okay, versus him. But you know what the biggest group was? Undecided. They said, we don't know who won.
Right. That's right.
So that just shows you that there's not the majority of people think either he won the debate or it was undecided. She had less than 50% that thought she won the debate.
Yeah.
And if you start off the question saying, okay, 40% of the people are going to be for her no matter what she does, and she only then garnered an additional 8%, is that really winning the debate? See what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I completely understand.
You hit the nail on the head. And I think no content, no policy, no intellectual.
She did not answer one question.
Anything.
She did not answer one question.
So she did nothing that way. All she won was temperament. And it's a little commercial. It's all it was. And that's really the first 20 minutes was temperament. So she said nothing, did nothing, didn't change anything. But that's all it was. And that was a little bit disappointing. But I think that when you give her the abortion question, when she was swallowing hard, she could barely swallow. She gets to the second question and boy, she settled down. And that's what they did on purpose.
Did you say swallowed hard?
Oh, she had a lump in her throat. You can see it. And then how about the local Johnstown, Pennsylvania?
Always has a lump in her throat.
Did you see that? Did you see that interview she just did yesterday?
Yeah, it was terrible. It was
nervous.
Well, because it wasn't scripted.
Yes.
She cannot think on her feet unless it's written down. Now, I've heard and we've read, and they're already discounting that there's whistleblowers from the news that have come forward and said she was provided with generic questions that were very similar to the ones that were asked. Now, Donna Brazile, that we've spoken about before as well, did give Hillary Clinton, the prior does work for that news organization, was on air shortly before the thing aired, and also she was the one that admitted to giving Hillary Clinton the questions to the previous debate against Donald Trump.
Yes.
Right.
So it's not a leap. You're not a conspiracy theorist, and it's not a leap to say, hey, maybe they didn't give her the exact question, but maybe they said, we're going to talk about this, 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 and this. So just give us your generic answer to that, and that.
Right.
Now, I just find it that even with all of that, and I still think that it was a wash. And everyone's asking, is he going to go to another debate, agree to do another debate? My question is, and I mean this with all sincerity here, and I'm not being coy, what the hell for? Let's look at it from a historical standpoint.
Should you or shouldn't you?
Well, let's look at it from this. Well, here's the question framed in this reference. He agreed to the earliest debate we've ever had against Joe Biden. Okay, he agreed to it. And I'm banging on the table here because I'm getting pissed off. But here's the deal. So he agrees to the earliest debate.
Wait till you see Cynthia's comments.
Well, wait, I don't need to read his comments. He didn't show up to the debate. We invited him. He didn't show up.
He did not show.
And so I don't really have much to say to him or read his comments. And I don't think we should even bother reading his comments. But here's the deal. At the end of the day, he shows up, he agrees to it in a hostile environment with CNN, the earliest presidential debate we ever had. Democrats did that by design because they wanted to stick a knife in Joe Biden's back. Donald Trump was the tool to do that. So he sits there and he does it. How is he rewarded? The Democrats do something that's never been done before. They yank their candidate who got every vote in the primary. They yank him. They replace him with a candidate of their choosing that none of the Democrat faithful or public voted for. She got no votes.
Coronated,
selected, not elected. And Donald Trump has to go into another hostile environment, debate her, where the moderators, as we've discussed, were horribly biased. Fact checked him, I believe it was 6 times, her no time, no follow-up questions with her. Like, well, the one thing pissed me, well, Mr. President, the question was, are your shoes blue or black? And he's like, but no question to her on that regard. That she talked about her childhood. Well, I'm sorry, Miss Vice President. The question was, what about your flip-flops? They didn't ask that, but whatever.
The follow-up question is always the key,
And then
she's scared to death of it.
And then
she got none of it.
you want there's a if I was Donald Trump, I'd be like, what the hell for am I going to have another debate? Why? Well, I've had 2. You've already screwed me twice. I'd be a dummy to come to a third one. She won't agree to a Fox News debate.
Only Laura Ingraham and Sean Hannity would be the only way he would maybe do it, and that's a maybe.
Well, I think you should put. I think that yes, Megyn Kelly is another one that would be a fair, because she's been hard on him. In the past, and gave him a really tough interview and was a debate moderator and was tough with him. But you know what? She even blew her top, and she was hard on Trump.
And let's play this clip real quick.
And Brett and Martha don't get
her
another
name up.
chance. They've had theirs, right? I mean, let's keep them off of Fox.
We'll play this Megyn Kelly clip because I thought it was funny, because I'm an anti-Swiftie, so I found it amusing.
Lunatic dropped a note in my personal mailbox outside my house begging me not to boycott Taylor Swift, as though I have that power. I'm allowed to criticize Taylor Swift, and I don't give a shit who gets upset. This is disgusting. If she wants to vote Harris Walz, she can do it all she wants. But to say the reason she's doing it is because of Tim Walz's stance on LGBTQ, F you, Taylor Swift, and F all of the people who want to see these children have body parts chopped off and watch them sterilized under the age of consent, and then will ride off to their multi-gazillion-dollar mansions, never to think of them again. Some lunatic dropped a note.
How fucking funny is that, though? You have all these billionaires, multimillionaires that do these, they support because of this X, Y, and Z. They don't give a shit about their whoever their fans are, their fan base, whether it's an actor, whether it's Taylor Swift or whoever. They don't give a shit.
Well, how's it?
They're using that. They're using their platform.
And her weakness is male votes. Taylor Swift's not going to do anything to help Harris pick up the male voter, and that's whatever. It's kind of useless. You knew it was going to happen. I mean, is it frustrating? I suppose, but I'm not going to dwell a whole lot of time on.
I loved watching her get fired up, though.
Well, Megyn Kelly gets fired up. If you listen to her show, as we were discussing earlier, so on Sirius XM radio, there's a Triumph channel, and from 9 to 12, they have the Glenn Beck show, and then from 12 to I believe 3, they have Megyn Kelly on, and she has some great interviews, and that's her podcast right there. I mean, she gets fired up, and she gets pissed off, and she's smart, and she's sharp as a whip. And she's a pleasure to look at on the internet. So
she's changed a lot, and she's admitted it. That's what I love.
Well, she was 4 or 5 years ago. She sees where the country's gone.
Absolutely.
I mean, she about as fair of a journalist, quote unquote, radio journalist as I've met.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
I do have to throw this out there. Cincy 513 said that Kiefer, I asked you to call me after the last show. You didn't. You have my number, and I responded with, as you have mine as well, and you know where the post is, because people were asking why he didn't show up. He said he doesn't have my number. Well, I literally have text messages.
Excuse me, we have
conversing back and forth. So that is false news as well.
Hey,
Cincy 513.
Jason, you were clear where we were going to be. You were clear where the time was.
But I also don't.
I'm sorry.
Call out evidence. I have evidence.
Well,
I fact checked my shit. And
you fact check yourself.
I just looked at a text message that I had with him, back and forth. He has my number.
He's a Democrat. Does it surprise you that he's stretching the truth?
Would he clarify for me? Because I'm not an expert on it. Would he clarify in Minnesota?
Not an expert.
The Minnesota. Oh, okay, I don't.
He's not an expert.
Well, I know. I am, but he's saying something here about the fact check on the abortion issue. Can he please explain the Minnesota deal? Because I'm not well versed on it. But as far as after birth,
let me explain something to you. You're relying on someone who's not trustable to clarify a position of a statement that they want to clarify in their favor.
Right.
So you're asking for the impossible here.
Yeah. Well, I figured, but that was kind of the fun question.
Cincy 513 is a toy that occasionally we allow.
And I'm not him with his shirt on, for crying out loud. I don't know who this guy is, but
I don't know who he is either. But for some reason, he doesn't like me. Jason said he just doesn't like me.
Oh, he hates you. Like, despises you.
Well, that's unfortunate.
There was somebody at Rob's fundraiser I thought was maybe him, but I'm not sure.
Here, let's to not dwell too far. Travis, I got you, buddy.
Sorry, I was distracted with my
all
phone.
good.
I'm getting my car repaired as we're doing all this, so I'm having to.
I'm gonna play this video the day after the debate
Talk about
on 9/11.
multitasking.
I think this is absolutely huge. In fact, that these two idiots walk in expecting a huge, resounding.
You're talking about
reception.
Shanksville. Well, let's set the stage. This is at the Shanksville Fire Department
Yes.
station.
Yep.
Okay, on 9/11, they have both. We had to set stage here.
Yeah.
They have both already appeared at a ceremony, or was it after that? I think it was. They had already been at the ceremony at Shanksville.
I believe so.
In the morning.
And in the morning.
Yeah.
And so this is after the event at Shanksville honoring 9/11. This is after. Did you hear the mother of one of the victims of 9/11 explain how upset she was at the president for saying that they don't necessarily do 9/11? He says we're doing 9/11.
Yeah, we're doing 9/11.
And
Yep.
she went off on him, and that was in New York, I believe.
Yes.
Where the chance where Trump, there you go, where Trump was, well received and people were yelling to Trump. Let's just play what happened in Shanksville at the fire department.
This is great. Hold on, video froze. Stand by. Stand by.
It's a complete embarrassment for the two of them.
So here, I'll stop this one because I have two of them. I don't know why that one froze, but here you go.
There he is.
So I had another video without the crickets in it.
The crickets were the only audio added to that. The crickets
Correct.
were overlaid. They didn't mute the crowd and play the crickets. The crickets were only overlaid. So that's just the people of Shanksville, Pennsylvania, responding to two candidates, and that wasn't just Biden.
And the video
Kamala was there with
the video that I sent you that was unavailable because I gave Mark everything that we were going to be talking about, all the videos that Andrew got. That's the one that got pulled.
Oh, really?
That's the one that got pulled. I found it again, but then
Did they say what? They said it was fake information, or
it just said wasn't available.
Oh,
So I found it again, but that's for whatever reason, that's the one that wouldn't play.
What do you think, Jason, the firefighter and people you've talked to with that Khalid, I would say his name right, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the mastermind of 9/11, when
Right.
Merrick Garland and DOJ wanted to give him a sweetheart deal and let him off the hook.
right.
What does that resonate? I mean, within the fire department, I mean, there's people even talk about it. I mean, I just feel like Trump is in New York is not where he has the highest percentages, but boy, within the law enforcement and the fire departments in New York City, they really do respect him. I mean, he's
Absolutely.
he's always had that. Now with that on top of it, what an insult to
So there's a
9/11 families.
huge, and there is a huge influx in the International Association of Firefighters because they endorsed, they did not endorse Trump.
Yeah, unions never usually do.
Typically.
Yeah.
Now, the firemen have in the past, they endorsed George W. Bush, right, wrong, or indifferent. So they did get out of that Democratic
Command
mindset of unions and Democrats. But they did not endorse, they endorsed Biden. They didn't endorse Harris. They endorsed Biden. And obviously that's not an option anymore.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So there's a huge influx within the International Association of Firefighters because most
rank and file.
file love Trump,
Right.
but the higher ups that are getting paid,
yes,
a shit ton of money.
always been the problem.
The bosses.
Yeah.
For 50 years, I mean, no longer, right?
So
yeah.
so
No,
that's
it's-
so that's big. But the Fraternal Order of Police back Trump,
look.
which is a union.
The and I'm not so sure with the influence that the union bosses making their proclamations has anymore, because
Right.
United Auto Workers always go Democrat, but the rank and file usually vote more conservative than the bosses that are getting paid.
Yeah.
I always had a problem, and maybe you guys can back me up. I'm not the member of a union, but you can tell me. I'm not saying this is
Nor
the
am
case
I.
with the firefighter union. So forgive me if and I'm not insinuating that it is, but the UAW, what always kind of puzzled me is, I see car guys, guys that work on the car lines and guys that work in car factories are just, hardworking Americans, right? They may get dressed up once every couple of months for church or a funeral or wedding or whatever else, but they're not throwing on $1,000 shoes and stuff like that. But then I see these union bosses or the union leaders showing up to stuff, and they're in $1,000 suits with imported shoes and manicures and the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, that always puzzled me as to the disconnect there. You know what I mean? I'd rather have a guy show up in a flannel shirt, unless he's Tim Walsh, and represent my values.
Joe the plumber. It's a perfect example.
Joe the plumber. Or you remember during the last election when Biden when that steel worker confronted Biden.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then that was fact check. And now I saw the video. You don't work for me, right? And Biden said that directly to him. Yeah. And they're like, oh, he didn't really say that. I'm like, I heard it.
He absolutely fucking
that
did.
was before AI. I mean, that was well before AI.
My ears still work.
Yeah,
I have this video too. We were talking about the after debate reaction. So.
What did you see that brought you to a conclusion?
I think it's important to remember that we are voting for the leader of our country and not who we like the most or who we want in our wedding party, but who is actually going to make our country better. And we're in an incredibly unique situation where we've had both of the candidates in office before, and we've gotten to see what they would do. And when facts come to facts, my life was better when Trump was in office. The economy was higher, inflation was lower, things were better overall. And now with Kamala's administration, things haven't been so fantastic. And she's saying she can fix the problems that her administration has caused, but I just don't know if I can afford to take that risk.
So think about,
I think that's fair.
2016, 2020, the way I see it, I feel better today than I did at this time before either one of those elections.
That's a fact.
And so when you think about the unions, when you see Sean O'Brien and I have in-laws that are Teamsters, both retired, a father-in-law and a mother-in-law. But when I look at that, when I see O'Brien show up at the RNC, and obviously the speech wasn't tailored for that, he said what he wanted to say, and they gave him the opportunity. But the fact that he was invited, but
that spoke volumes.
You made a great point though when what he said was 50% of his 1.3 members now, 50% are Republican, 50% are Democrat. He had to change. He really was forced in a situation where half of the guys support Trump, and this is a different party than it was the establishment. They can criticize, say what they want about America First or MAGA, whatever you want to say. Even myself, find myself as a lifetime conservative. This establishment, what I've seen from the people that I donated to and that I put work into, how disappointed I could be over the last 30, 40 years. People that you look at, and I think it's taken on. When Robert Kennedy says that 70% of the wealth voted for Joe Biden and 30% of the wealth voted for Donald Trump, this is different than when I grew up. I mean, you've been told your whole life that it's for the working man, the Democrat. This party is nothing. That tent is nothing like the Kennedy Democrats, the things that people.
Which is why they've left it.
But so many that still stick there. But you're right. So many have left, and especially the younger union voters. That's why they had to go to immigration, mass immigration, to take over what they're losing. They're hemorrhaging it.
No question.
And if the African-American vote ever got to 20%, I heard a man say it, I never forgot it. If the Republican, you thought it was never could even be possible.
It's possible.
But could a Republican get 20% of the African-American vote? The Democrat Party is dead.
He's polling that right now.
Yes. And that's why they're freaking out.
And that's why they're freaking out because,
Great point.
Folks are not dumb. I mean, fool me once, fool me twice, but people saw the results of Donald Trump. They lived the Trump presidency. And as the very simple phrase that I wish now folks liked his closing remarks during the debate. I thought they could have been, everyone has an opinion, right? So who knows, right? But I wish the phrase, echo Reagan's phrase, it worked. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago?
Fact.
And keep it simple. If you are, then vote for Kamala Harris and a continuation of the Biden policy, which let's not forget that rather than write her own policy, her handlers simply copy. No, wait, it's worse than that. They, on their page, their web page, they copied and pasted the exact page from Biden, so that when you actually clicked on Kamala's link, it went to Biden's page. So that's how fundamentally lazy they are, and that's how fundamentally stupid they think their supporters are. And if 513's here, I'm sure that will probably be exhibit A, B, and C. But we forget that times have changed. And if you would have asked me if, for example, Donald Trump has cobbled together, he has Robert Kennedy Jr., he has Tulsi Gabbard.
Yes, sir.
He has so many Democrats. Elon Musk was a Democrat. He has cobbled together such a broad base of support. And you talk about a diversified party. Yeah. Okay. There's one party in this race that is truly diversified. And yes, you have your hardcore Trump MAGA supporters, right? MAGA, Trump, Trump flags and Trump tattoos.
Which they insult constantly.
Well, because, MAGA this, MAGA that. I mean, but this is the man that has cobbled together a party now that represents a true spectrum of the United States and actually more accurately reflects the fabric of the United States than the far left Democrat Party that unless you agree to unless you bow to the altar of liberalism, you're out of the party. You're persona non grata.
Yes.
And Donald Trump has expanded the base of the Republican Party far beyond the, fiscally or even socially conservative. And, they tried to trip him up with a question on abortion initially, which I thought was comical at best. But, the right answer, he gave it, that it's better off in the states. And that's where the decision belongs. And for example, here in Ohio, I was shocked for such a conservative. We are a solidly red state. But guess what? We have one of the more liberal abortion laws in the nation. Not the most, not by a long shot, but one of the more liberal than I think the voters even anticipated it being by the referendum that ended up being put on the ballot.
And now you can have an abortion in Ohio for perpetuity, and so it's no longer a presidential issue.
It's pretty long. It's not the 9th month, but it's pretty darn close.
But it went to the states. So.
It went to the states, and and that's where it should be, because you want to talk about if you are, and this is where some of the pro-life people get a little bit sideways with Trump on the issue, but if you want to, have smaller government, if you're a fan of smaller government, then you do leave the issue to the states. Right. You don't have an overpowerful federal government meddling in your everyday life. So, we'll see what happens. Obviously, we have some more videos to play, and because we try to keep the show to, a little under an hour and a half.
Right. But, he had to nail on the head on that. It works. A quick point, though, 17%, I think they said it was 2 days ago, Biden was basically Trump had over Biden 17% advantage in the polls, but 17% advantage with the working class. He now, as of 48 hours ago, got Harris back up to 17%. I mean, you think about, we got a few years on this guy next to us. You think about growing up. Did you ever think
old
that
fucks
17%, exactly 17% of the working class for a Republican?
No, I never thought that. And I never thought that the African American vote would be as high as it's going to be.
It's just awesome to see.
And I never thought the union vote would be as high as you're going to see.
Yes.
I think Donald Trump has done a remarkable job. Now let's put this in perspective here. I went to the first debate, one of the first debates when Trump was running after he announced his candidacy. And I was not a Trump guy. I went in Houston was the debate when George W. Bush and his wife Barbara were there, and sat very close to where they were sitting. Had a light fixture almost fall on my head. True story.
Why did it happen?
Why did it? It missed us by a mere few feet. No, it was close. I mean, this thing was one of those big things that came crashing down. But on the stage, I forget. I think there was 7 or 8 people there, and I was a Ted Cruz guy. I really was. I was a firm Ted Cruz guy. I thought he'd make a fantastic. And Trump spoke, and I was like, he's not a real politician, and blah blah blah. And man, I'll tell you what. Look at what he's done. Look at the coalition that he's put together. Look at the support that he's garnered amongst Republicans and also Democrats. That he's broadened the base of our party in the whole tent.
People are jumping to be a part of that.
Well, people are jumping to be a part of it, but the Democrats are pushing them as well with their very radical agenda.
Oh, it's fair. I mean, you have reasons why you change your mind.
Right.
Something pushes you to
But
it,
you've
then
got
you
to,
also see something.
and you have to have somewhere to go. And he's welcomed these people, and it's a bigger tent. It really is. It's a bigger tent. And let's not forget, I haven't seen the economic as far as budgetary impact that this idea would have. But he raised a very popular point just this week. Another plank to his platform that he wants to push
I
for.
think I know where you're going.
Yeah, you think I do. Is no taxes on overtime.
Overtime.
Yeah, it's
I knew.
brilliant.
See, I knew where you're going.
It's like
I'm all for it.
it's like so. He has no taxes on tips.
I
that
work overtime.
She then copied that,
Mhm.
and then now he has no taxes on overtime because look. I don't, like I said, what I would like to see
Is it feasible? I don't know.
well, what I would like to see, because I'm fiscally conservative, what I'd like to see is to say, okay, if the budget department runs the numbers on this and they say it's going to cost X billion dollars a year, whatever the number is, I don't know.
Mhm.
I'd like to see a corresponding amount of cuts from the budget because I don't think we should go into deficit spending
I agree.
even more to accomplish this goal.
I would benefit from that, but
And you're selfish.
I want to see a cost benefit analysis.
But
Let's
here's
see-
the deal.
let's see that.
I would be way on board. I heard it raise my eyebrows. I'm like, okay, I like it from the tax perspective because I don't like the government taxing more than they should. Okay.
Mhm.
But on the flip side, I'm also fiscally conservative and I don't want to say, well, we're just going to borrow the money that we're going to lose out on. I don't want to see that. So I'm fair. I want to see Kamala's plan in response to that. Now, the funny thing of all is people are squawking. I'm sure 513 is chewing on a shoe right now, yelling at his computer. But I want to see when Kamala says something like we're going to give $50,000 for startup businesses tax credit. Well, it doesn't take a lot to start up a new business. So how many established businesses will just start up a new branch or a new business to get the $50,000 tax credit? And at what cost? See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm saying that sounds wonderful, but there's no thought given behind that because I could start a new business tomorrow. I mean, I really could, and then qualify for that tax business. Now, if I had an existing business, okay, and I scaled that back, started a new business, got the $50,000 tax credit from the government, is there a net gain to the economy?
Yeah.
No. You've gone in the whole 50 grand.
Right.
You've also lost out on whatever he cut back or someone changed from that other entity.
Right.
Let them go to bring them into the new entity, or that's a wash, whatever. But then it cost you 50 grand and you're not any further ahead. You haven't created any net jobs. So she doesn't have the history. She doesn't have the experience. She doesn't have the chutzpah. Look it up to be in the position she's in. She says words well. And as I told you the night of the debate, I was surprised how easily and how well she lied. She was slick. She lied very well.
Well, she helped.
And the fact she brought up like how many times he filed bankruptcy. I'm like, well, our government allows that to happen.
Bankruptcy laws back in the 80s were so liberally written that a lot of people you would be.
He saved multiple jobs by fucking filing bankruptcy.
Well, hold on a second.
To restart another one.
Well, but let's be fair.
But he's a good businessman.
It was a tool that was available to businesses that was misused to a certain degree because they had to rewrite the bankruptcy laws.
Don't disagree, but it was allowed.
It was allowed. It was not illegal.
So he didn't do anything wrong.
But he never did anything wrong. But I do have a fundamental problem with back in the day of people, entities declaring bankruptcy, because if you were a small business and you were owed $20,000 by XYZ Corporation or a small contractor or whatever the case might be, and the parent company or the company that owed you the money then just declared bankruptcy almost frivolously because the laws were so poorly written and at the time, and XYZ kind of laughed about it because they had attorneys that could migrate those laws. Well, that actually hurt people. I mean, hurt those small businesses.
I don't disagree with that, Andrew.
But it wasn't illegal.
But what I'm saying is
people weren't paid.
He fell into what multiple other entities were doing.
It was not unusual, and that's why the bankruptcy laws were then revised.
But I love the fact that they use that as, he's a shitty businessman.
Well, he's a
shitty businessman.
He's
really?
10 times
Are you fucking kidding me?
He's 10 times the businessman of anyone else in that race,
Yes.
especially her.
Biden's a pretty good businessman because he's gotten.
You know who's a good
business?
You know who's a good businessman? Elon Musk.
Elon Musk is.
He's a good businessman. Now, I saw something this week that's not getting a whole lot of play, and we don't even have video on it because I didn't know we were going to talk about it. But like this show, we're free spirits, and this show migrates all over the place, and I like that. Did you realize that the first private spacewalk took place today?
Yes.
And humans
yesterday or
2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Well, one
I was at work watching it.
Yeah, SpaceX. So SpaceX and SpaceX it was the furthest humans have been from the Earth than since the moon shot. Okay, and SpaceX pulled this off. They practiced a spacewalk. They have these new designed spacesuits that are very, very sleek.
Oh, they're very
sexy.
way different than what we've ever seen.
Way different. And now they're going to send up for those astronauts that are stranded, which we talked about that briefly, but guess what? They're still there.
They're stuck until February 25 for now.
Hey, and you know what they did from space? You want to hear something really cool that they did from space? They had a press conference. Kamala couldn't do it on Earth.
She doesn't want to talk to anybody on Earth.
She can't do a press conference on Earth.
Two interviews in 60 days, right?
Yeah.
We're coming
well, 1.5, because I mean, do you count them as interviews? I mean, come on. But
what kind of message does that send to a woman? You know, I have 4 daughters. Well, what kind of message to women when you're going to be the leader of the free world and you have to bring old Mr.
Her
Waltz
support,
Grandpa Waltz
her
next
support
to you,
animal.
which what a clown he is. But the bottom line, to bring that guy, you have to have him next to you for your first interview.
Hands.
That's just not. I mean, I don't know. I'd like to ask women that.
Did you say jazz hands?
Oh, you've seen that?
I've seen. Well,
is that Rip Taylor? Is that Rip Taylor imitation?
Let me ask you a question. Now, have you seen? And I'll throw this out there for the general listening audience, the multitude. Have you seen the video? And I don't know if it's him or if it's not him, but have you seen the cowboy video?
No, I have not.
Okay, there is
I don't know if that's him or not.
Have you seen the cowboy video? You have seen the cowboy video, and I've heard. You know, you don't know what to believe, right? So I'm not going to say it's him, but I'm not going to say it's not him because somebody reported that was provided by his family because his family now documented relatives, a big portion of his family does not like him.
Well, they're supporting Trump.
They're supporting Trump.
I love it.
So I don't know if they provided this video. They said he's made some. They're very cryptic, and I don't know if he's going to get more direct. But they said he's made some very, very disturbing decisions in his life that they can't see him ever being in a position of power. That's a pretty bold statement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, now you see it. Jason sees it.
I don't think it's him.
I don't think that's him.
But it's been said that it's him.
But it's funny.
It wouldn't surprise me.
It's been.
I mean, I've dressed up as some weird shit on Halloween.
That's your safe word.
There's
what
pictures.
Tuscaloosa,
Alabama,
sir.
That shit's funny though.
Should we show that so that people because we'll get dinged?
I'm not.
We might get dinged.
I don't want to. I mean,
we don't want to go there.
We throw our opinions out there and we try to fact check as much as we can. Okay. I'm not going to throw it up there yet.
We'll have to fact check that. But I mean, I don't know if it was provided by his family. So we just mentioned Tim Walz. That debate's coming up in a few weeks. I'm really looking forward to it because I think J.D. Vance. A lot of people questioned his selection as VP, but if you've seen any interviews that he's done, and he's doing ad nauseum, that means a lot. He's doing a lot of interviews on a lot of different channels, and the man is smart.
He's good.
Smart. Unbelievable.
I cannot wait to see those two.
What to go? Let's hunker down somewhere and just do that live.
We will figure that out.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes. So, lot going on.
What's your schedule Tuesday or Wednesday?
This week?
This week.
I won't be back till Wednesday night. Actually, I probably shouldn't say that out loud, but I have something going. I'm busy.
You're busy.
I'm busy till Wednesday night.
I threw you on the spot.
No, you threw me on the spot. And I'd like to remind everybody.
Maybe potentially Wednesday evening or Thursday.
Thursday for sure.
Work?
Thursday works better.
So we'll be back Thursday.
But here's the deal. I'd like to mention before we go, since we're not on any time. There's an honor flight coming up this week.
Ooh.
And I'd like everybody, if they can, this will be the first one of the fall. And I'd like everybody to get out to CVG the night about 8:30, 9 o'clock on Tuesday night to welcome these veterans home. and I'm not going to be doing it because I'm busy. But you know, it's an organization that's near and dear to my heart.
Still trying to become a paramedic.
I'm still trying to get you one. They just say you're not good. And I'm kidding. We're going to work that out, and we will get that worked out. But what a great. I love the fact that you
Incredible.
are adamant about wanting to be one of the paramedics on the honor flight.
Yes.
I love that.
I think it's a great program that we're doing for these guys.
You know, and that spans. You know, we're a conservative show, and we might have a little bit of a political bias, maybe, but that is an organization that spans politics,
bipartisan,
and we don't ask. The organization does not ask party affiliation when it decides what veterans to tank. And I've met so many great veterans through the years.
You've done it. You've done it a ton too.
Yeah,
you've dedicated a lot of time to it, which I think is great.
Well, I mean, look, it's the least I can do. As all cards on the table, I am not a veteran. And I didn't serve in the military. I have the utmost respect for those that did, because they allowed me the freedom, and they protected the freedoms that I enjoy, not only to have had successful businesses, but the freedom to live my life. And because of their dedication and their service, we have the freedom here, at least presently, unless we lose the next election. Who knows? We might get the show shut down. But
we'll be dinged.
I'm waiting one day to hear just a swarm, and then they come busting down the door.
Show me your papers.
But no, listen. You know, whatever group you want to support, that is one. If anyone out there has the ability to donate or support Honor Flight Tri-State, I highly recommend them. And if supporting them means just taking your kids, you want to have a nice evening, Tuesday night, go out to CVG, 8:30, 9 o'clock, the flight will come rolling back in. They have a welcome corridor that they set up, that they do a homecoming parade. And, you know, it really is, having done it, I can know what hits the veterans the hardest. And that welcome home parade with the little kids going up and thanking these veterans time after time after time,
incredible.
Is amazing. And the kids get so much out of it too. I think the kids get more out of it, and the parents of the children get more out of it than sometimes even the veterans.
Well, and that thought process, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, with that, is a lot of these guys weren't welcomed home.
Yeah.
They did not have that. So
because
that's why we do this corridor.
Well, right. Because we are
that welcome back.
I mean, you know, just chronologically, we sadly we don't have a lot of World War II veterans left. Frank's still around on the west side, but he's 98.
Your guy,
my guy, Frank.
I want to meet Frank.
You know, we should have Frank on.
We should
have Frank on. We'll be talking for days.
We can go on the west side somewhere. We'll take all the stuff.
Yeah,
make it easy on him.
For sure. But no, so, you know, really, when you're there with a group of veterans or one-on-one, and you're especially a Vietnam veteran that served in combat in Vietnam, and you get to the Vietnam Memorial, the wall in DC, and then they come home, and they never had that. And I mean, I've heard story after story after story from Vietnam veterans how, you know, they were directed, take your shit off, take your uniform off, don't wear your uniform in public. It was a different country back then. And I'm sad to say that in some way, I think that, although I don't think it's overt the way it was back then, that the anger from the country, or some of the people in the country was directed at veterans. But I think we're kind of headed a little bit in that direction these days. I'm getting the inkling that
without a doubt,
I just think that people, especially in regards to the respect for law and order, police, fire. I mean, you know, Kamala, which we didn't even get to touch on today, has a history of, you know,
defund
the police. We had a story, and maybe you want to end with the story. Do you want to end with the story about the school?
I'll play this quick video.
And also bailing out Antifa and
George Floyd protesters.
I mean, Antifa did tens
far
and
more
tens of millions of damage.
Yeah.
She bowed them out. No punishment. No.
We're bringing up the fact checks again. The fact checking on January 6th was horrific.
Right.
Horrific.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
We'll hit this video, and then we'll end it out. I mean, we'll talk after, but we'll end it out after this last video.
Again, what we need to do about demilitarizing our schools, and taking police officers out of schools.
Obviously, the shooter was armed, and our school resource officer engaged him, and the shooter quickly realized that if he did not give up, that it would end with an OIS, or an officer-involved shooting. He gave up, got on the ground, and the deputy took him into custody.
I'm not going to say that kid's name, but his dad got charged as well. And, we try not to promote their names and give them any more recognition, but that's a perfect example though of, let's take the cops out of schools.
Yeah. Let's reimagine, the word they use
Yeah.
and the word they love to use. It sounds so much friendlier. Let's reimagine the police.
Yeah.
Okay. What does that mean? Well, reimagine.
Let's
them.
abolish ICE.
Hey, I got exciting news for you,
She
Andrew.
said.
Is it exciting?
We have a
How was your day today?
we have a new sponsor coming on.
Do we?
So I'm working on getting his ad read together and
But we're not announcing it now.
not announcing it yet.
So we're teasing the
we're
announcement.
teasing. But
Is that what it's called in the
it's a tease.
The tease? You're such a tease.
And not that anybody else cares, but for now. But it's
Oh, I care.
It's
Shoot.
financially helping. So that's
Hey,
good.
listen. Well, thank you. And
I'm working on getting all his stuff together, so that way we can start doing good ad reads.
Is his pronoun his?
Yes.
His.
His pronoun is him.
Him.
Him. He.
They.
Him. He. His has a wiener.
His.
That's what it is.
Well,
Hey, have you been to the Warburg?
I've been out to the Warburg.
My daughter came in. I went to see her in D.C. and we were walking together that day through the memorials, and they
Yeah.
actually had a big event they had just wrapped up that day with Vietnam veterans. So that was incredible. But taking her and her boyfriend were in town. He's really into the history of aviation and the aircraft, and unbelievable. The gentleman that was there, they were really sharp. There was 3 veterans there, Air Force veterans. I can't speak enough about that place here. In
yeah, and it's
Cincinnati.
close. It's
You
a
have
east
to-
side.
You have to
felt-
support those things.
I hadn't been there enough. I'm just shocked.
Well,
that I didn't really even know about it.
and it's very close.
It's Claremont County Airport.
Claremont County Airport.
Amazing.
I don't know their
Can't
hours.
say enough
I don't
about
want
it.
to, but
Regular hours.
they have a website.
Yes, website.
It's far for David J in California, but
But it is a great way to just go spend an afternoon, and they have actually some really good displays.
An incredible display.
They have a B-20.
are you
They
too
all
done? Are
fly.
you too done kissing? yet?
All aircraft.
this is
fly.
fun stuff.
That's
Look,
their claim to
I'm
fame.
messing around.
Everything that you see can fly. That's pretty cool.
Can we take a motorcycle ride out there?
Yes. You want to get? You're riding on the back, or no? You can
What do I
ride.
hold on to?
You can ride on the tank and face me. How's that? All right, so we potentially may come back at you potentially Thursday. Andrew's busy early week, but hey, we appreciate everybody
and
tuning in.
you know what? It's something you should mention. The reason that we are getting possibly a new sponsor that you teased about is because of the people that click
Yep.
and go online and are watching online.
Like, subscribe,
Even
download,
513 is helping us in some convoluted way,
which is awesome.
which is awesome. But
It's called a click-through rate, and I like that.
we appreciate each and every person that gets on here and clicks on our show and watches our show and then watches our show and then gets their friends to watch their show.
It's obviously changed. I mean, we've definitely morphed from 2.5 years ago, and we're going to continue to change.
I mean,
we're
our
bringing-
show could be said to be kind of had a diuretic effect,
yes,
right? It cleanses.
It cleanses.
People. Cleanses.
Cleanses. And then you go on to your next podcast or
I don't-
live stream that you watch, whatever. But
Whatever.
we're glad you're here. We appreciate you, and we will see you potentially Thursday. So everybody,
For sure.
be safe. Have a good rest of the weekend and good start to the work week.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you, Mark, my brother, my brother from the same mother. Love you, bro. And
Yeah, me too,
we
man.
will
Thanks for having me.
definitely have you back on because you're
Awesome.
You're
Yeah.
smarter than Pappas.
Well,